someone to come on and enlighten us on the issues that we're facing with violence in America. And it's always the initial thrust of this program was a concern for gun violence. But we realize that guns are, I always say, are inanimate object. What is it that has caused people to pick up a gun and harm another person, shoot another person, kill another person? This is where we feel the rubber meets the road, is to go to what are the root causes of violence in America and across the world. I feel that America plays a really critical role in looking at the ways in which we can reduce violence by looking at many of the root causes of the different best practices that are out there that have proven to reduce violence, because they have dealt with the individual, they have dealt with the group, they have dealt with the demographics in order to understand why violence is prevalent. And as you see, it seems like it's getting worse. But always when something seems like it's getting worse, it's about to get better. And it takes individuals like that we have on today and others in the past to be the catalyst for it getting better and becoming sustainable results, or sustainable avenues, if you will, toward the reduction of crime in America. Today, we have another special, wonderful guest. Her name is, always let me just make this, Melissa Johnson, Miss Melissa Johnson, and she's the Deputy Chief of Staff and Special Advisor to the Mayor of Kansas. I'm telling you, you guys are coming strong with Kansas. You might become the model, because a lot of people from Kansas City has been on here and have shared wonderful things. Miss Melissa Johnson, as a special advisor to the mayor, has led initiatives backed by $30 million in funding that addresses violent crimes and public health crises. She leads Partners for Peace, and a program aimed at supporting families affected by violent crimes and preventing further incidents, and has been instrumental in fostering improved relationships between the police, which is so important, and prosecutors, leading to a higher deterrence or clearance rate for criminal cases. We're glad to have her, and her topic today, I think, is very advantageous, and it is Stopping the Violence, the Mayor's Spearhead Collaborative Efforts. And the word collaborative is, I think, one of the most critical operative word we can use in our efforts to reduce crime. So we're really happy to have you on, Ms. Johnson, and the floor is yours. We look forward, really happy to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much, Reverend. Thank you so much. And I appreciate the warm welcomes. I actually greater appreciate the fact that you said we can change this. And usually things get worse before they get better. We have no business operating in this space if we do not truly believe deep down in our heart and soul that we can turn this around. And so I appreciate you level setting this conversation in such a positive and uplifting way. As the Reverend mentioned, my name is Melissa Johnson, and I currently work in the office of Mayor Quentin Lucas here in Kansas City, Missouri, which I think I saw somebody from the chat say that they were checking in from Pakistan. So those that may not be familiar with Kansas City, even though I'm sure you all have heard from a number of citizens from here, we are a city of about 500,000 people, the home of the Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, and we have a lot of great things going for this city. We have the World Cup coming here in 2026, and we have a lot of different investments and economic development projects popping up in every sector of our city. But like most American cities, we still struggle greatly in one arena, and that is in violent crime. And I want to start my conversation with you all today with an explanation on my opinion on how we got here, to it feeling like it's worse than it's ever been. I am a proud product and child of Kansas City, Missouri, and have lived here most of my entire life, except for college and law school. And I've grown up in the urban core. I still live in the urban core, some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in our entire city. And I can attest and say that I've never seen it this bad. And so, in my opinion, COVID really just exposed so many inadequacies and just discrimination in our society. I think we always knew that certain neighborhoods with minority populations did not have the same school systems because of property taxes values, did not have the same grocery stores, did not have access to the same benefits that other communities have. Well, COVID multiplied all of that by 10. We really got to see how much mental health distress is going untreated out in the community. We really got to see how serious the socioeconomic divide is between impoverished communities and more affluent communities. We really got to see how domestic violence has touched almost every family in this country. COVID blew all of that up and exponentially magnified it. And so we had no choice but to see kind of the inadequacies of various parts of our country. And after COVID, the entire nation did experience about a 30% increase. And I think it's because everything that was wrong with this country was just magnified by 10. And then you couple that with another thing that I feel our community is facing right now. And I do think that this is somewhat unique to the Black community, for example. And these are tough conversations to have. And so I am apologetic for anybody that may be rubbed the wrong way by what I'm about to say. But I think in order to reach real solutions, we have to have real conversations. And the conversation that I want to have is that there is a unique devalue of Black human life, especially young Black men, that we are experiencing in our country, and it is heartbreaking. We have young men that are fathers, brothers, uncles, and nephews, but can't seem to see the humanity in other people that look exactly like them. So when you have an argument, a minor conflict between two people that don't even know each other from a can of paint, and both of those individuals are armed, you get the perfect recipe for a homicide in 2023 present day. And that's so heartbreaking to me, because what it says is that resolving a petty argument in a violent way is more important than you seeing your children growing old. It's more important than you providing and supporting your family. And that can only be rooted in one thing: we do not see each other as people. Now, be very clear. I understand how we got to this point, right? It's difficult for people who were literally brought here in chattel slavery and dehumanized from their entire existence on American soil to have a rough time seeing the humanity in each other. It was literally ingrained in us since this country's inception. But what I am saying, although our present circumstances might not be completely our own doing, the responsibility to change it absolutely lies with us. And that is the perfect segue to kind of talk about some of the initiatives and programs and projects that I have been working on in the mayor's office, functioning as his director of public safety, you all, because we can hand out as many jobs, as much counseling, as much rent and utility assistance as we possibly can, until we reframe the thought process of criminality, until we reframe the thought process of self-esteem and understanding that every single human in this city matters, in this country matters, no matter if you are Black, brown, white, blue, or purple. I heard that all the time growing up in church. We're not going to get anywhere. And so we really have to get to the self-esteem, building back up the humanity of these communities. And that is what I've tried to focus on throughout my work in the mayor's office. And so, as the Reverend mentioned in my introduction, I run a program, which is an intervention program called Partners for Peace. Now, Partners for Peace is a collaboration between the city of Kansas City, between the Jackson County Prosecutor's Office, between the Kansas City Police Department, Jackson County Combat, and dozens of on-the-ground community organizations. And what we aim to do is we utilize real-time police intelligence. So we get the data on every victim of a non-fatal shooting. We get the data and contact number of every family of a homicide victim. And we have simply been reaching out to them, to let them know that we support you, that we have a variety of services through our 26 service provider partners that we can offer you. Everything from things like I mentioned, rent and utility assistance, grief and trauma counseling, child care assistance, relocation, because we know a lot of our community members want to cooperate with police. I think through the, defund the police narrative of about 2020, somehow the narrative became that communities of color do not want police in their neighborhoods, and that could not be farther from the truth. I live in an area code or a zip code that has the highest homicide rate in our entire city. And I live there not only because I grew up there and it's convenient to live a minute away from my mother so I can steal her toilet paper and paper towels when I'm running low, but it's also a form of protest for me, if you will. I want to protest against the people that are wreaking havoc in our neighborhoods. I want to protest against the individuals that just can't seem to respect the elder woman that has lived in her home for 60 years and keeps her lawn well manicured, because the vast majority of these neighborhoods that are riddled by violent crime have good, faithful, committed community members that sit on their porch, that make sure that their flowers are watered. But for some reason, their positive community membership gets overshadowed by about the 10% that decide that they cannot find respect within themselves to respect other people. And so we reach out to all of these families of homicide victims, all of these victims of non-fatal shootings, because we know that very few violent acts are random. Normally, the person being shot knows who is shooting them. So we have taken the model that if we can connect with the victim of a non-fatal shooting shortly after they experience that unfortunate act, and we connect them to life-altering, life-saving services, getting them a job that pays automatically $55,000 a year to $85,000 a year, because we also have run a study here in Kansas City that indicates the average yearly income for a murder defendant or victim is right around $13,000 a year. $13,000 a year. That's not even minimum wage. And so what does it look like if we connect that person to a better paying job? Well, if we connect that person to financial assistance? And so that is what we started out doing with Partners for Peace. But anybody that works in the violence reduction space knows that you have to pivot. You have to be prepared to pivot and try new things. And as we continued our outreach to the families of homicide victims, we quickly realized we were normally speaking to a grieving grandmother or a grieving grandfather that was just trying to get their loved ones' affairs in order. The chances of these individuals picking up a gun and shooting somebody tomorrow are little to none, right? And so we know that we had to continue that work because families that have experienced violent crime absolutely deserve to be supported, especially from the city that they live in. But we also knew that we had to pivot to things that were actually going to move the ball forward, that were actually going to result in decreased homicides and non-fatal shootings. And so with that, we shifted our focus, still continuing our support of non-fatal shooting victims and families of homicide victims. We shifted our focus, though, to active crime drivers. And I know to a lot of people, it might seem a bit unorthodox to offer somebody that is knowingly committing crime and wreaking havoc on our community help. But I think we all know that we can't arrest our way out of this problem. So we probably need to start trying to help and assist our way out of this problem. And I'll be honest with you, getting my police department to understand the utility in that was about a 1.5 year long exercise. And I understand why. I'm not naive to that. You know, these are scary people that we're talking about, for sure. Some of them are definitely kind of following the pack and succumbing to peer pressure and still have good hearts. So I don't want to paint a picture as if every single person that has committed a crime or that has shot somebody is inherently a bad person. But I have to name that there's a spectrum. You have folks that have just fallen on less than desirable circumstances and have never had positive influences in their life, but know that they want to make a change on one end of the spectrum. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have individuals that have no respect for authority and no respect for themselves or those that live around them. And I know, especially for this end of the spectrum, those hardest of the hard criminals, it's a difficult concept to wrap your mind around offering them assistance. But I think we're there as a community. We cannot expect people to put the gun down unless we're willing to put something else in their hand. And that is what we are trying to do through Partners for Peace. So every Wednesday morning, I'll start my day as I did this morning at 8 a.m. at the Kansas City Police Department headquarters, where we have what is called a weekly shoot review. And essentially, we go over every fatal and non-fatal shooting that happened the week prior. At that meeting, I am now able to raise my hand and say, hey, I know that this young man was murdered during a drug deal gone wrong. And this is actually a real circumstance from a referral I got a couple of weeks ago. Young man doing a drug deal, trying to rip off the individual that he was buying the drugs from. He was with a friend and his girlfriend. The young man unfortunately lost his life in the midst of that drug deal gone wrong, but the friend is still alive and with us. I then get to raise my hand and say, hey, the friend, can I get their contact information? Because if they were involved and this individual that they were trying to rip off is angry and upset, it's not far-fetched to think that he might be next on our homicide list. What does it look like if I'm able to get to that young man, talk to him, speak life into him, reinstill some level of self-confidence, give him something productive to do with himself, connect him to a jobs training program? I actually now have funding where I can buy your work boots. So all of these things that live in the margin that might serve as a barrier for you to really turning a new leaf and turning your life around, hey, I can handle that. Let's just make sure you handle actually trying to change your life and chart a new path. And so, you know, it has been an interesting experience for me. I am a lawyer by trade, but I always tell people I'm a public servant by passion. And so the Great Resignation is hitting everybody. We are short-staffed. We were down as social worker about 4 months ago. So I'm a doer, like I'm sure many people on this call are doers. So I started going to the homes and visiting these individuals myself. And it was an interesting experience, you all. I promise, because I think sometimes we talk about violent crime in an academic way or as a political talking point. But that experience reminded me, and I already knew because, again, I live in the neighborhood, but it further drove the point home that these are real people. These are real lives. And every person that has either been shot by a gun or has held one, they all have a story. They all have a story. And so being able to learn those stories and to be really boots on the ground just further humanized this issue for me. And so I was very thankful for that 3-month period where I was doubling as a social worker and an outreach worker, because it lit a fire beneath me that needs to flame. It absolutely does, because as the work continues, but the murder number keeps getting higher, it's easy to feel discouraged. But in this world, you cannot be discouraged, because if you are discouraged, you have already lost. We absolutely can turn this thing around. We just have to start thinking a little bit outside of the box. And another thing that I wanted to talk about was a recent evolution that actually happened this morning. City Council passed an ordinance that establishes a multidisciplinary public safety task force that I have been asked to lead. Now, that's a very big mouthful, multidisciplinary public safety task force, but essentially all it is a task force of representatives from every city department. So I'm talking about the water department, public works department, our parks department, our health department, our neighborhoods department. And of course, KCPD is part of this task force as well. But it is essentially a task force aimed at making the necessary environmental improvements. So we're talking places, not people. The necessary environmental improvements to help eradicate and reduce.
Don't go straight there.
So for example, a bus stop is one of our recent sites that we've been working on. This bus stop is right across the street from a pawn shop. It has no lights. It's not well lit at all. It is right across the street. Actually, it's right next to a liquor store and maybe a 20-second walk away from a gas station that customarily is known for allowing people to loiter and sell drugs out of their parking lot. And so looking at this intersection,
Hi, son, how you doing?
things that we as the city can do.
Right?
Oh, and I also failed to mention that it is right next door to a vacant home that is completely overgrown by brush and greenery and is often used as a house where drug users and abusers often, do their business, if you will. And so what we did with this intersection is we installed all new street lights and actually added new street lights. We demolished the abandoned home so that it could no longer be used as a drug house. We actually created an ordinance. So moving forward, we now have zoning regulations that do not allow pawn shops anywhere near liquor stores, especially liquor stores that are open fairly late into the evening. And after making these environmental improvements, we noticed a 30% decrease in all crime at this intersection. So less petty theft, less sex work, less stealing, and certainly less shooting. And so what does it look like? Because I know our police department is doing the best that they can with the staffing numbers that they have. But us as the city, we also play a role. Because the Reverend talked about root causes at the beginning of this call. The police are reactionary, meaning something had to already have happened for them to be a part of the equation. True prevention lives at the neighborhood level, which any city should be supporting its neighborhoods because healthy neighborhoods means healthy communities. So we want to make sure that we as the city are carrying our weight as well. And that is the goal of this multidisciplinary task force. And as I mentioned, it was just started this morning because the ordinance just passed this morning, but cities like Dallas, Texas, which is one of the few cities that is trending in a positive way as it pertains to violent crime, have employed models like this. And so I'm very excited that they asked me to lead this effort. I think there's a lot of good that we can do. And also this will help the community's trust and relationship with the police department, because now the police are not just responding to a community in response to a violent crime. Now they're responding in conjunction with city officials to actually help the environmental stability of a particular neighborhood. So we've had police officers out there doing neighborhood cleanups themselves. And that results in an individual that has not had the most positive relationship with police. They're peeking out their window, getting to see an officer breaking a sweat because they're picking up trash. Maybe later on down the line, if they are a witness to something tragic, they're much more likely inclined to call the police because they now have this positive experience with them. The same can be said with Partners for Peace. I love being able to tell a family or a non-fatal shooting victim or an active crime driver that, hey, I got your number from KCPD, not to get you in further trouble, not to cause any further stress on your life, but simply just to help you. And I would have never found you if it was not for our police department. These are the things that have to happen every single day to really move the community trust ball forward. We cannot expect to hand out cookies and hams once a year to families and expect for them and take a couple of pictures with kids and expect them to automatically eradicate everything they know about policing and have a positive relationship with us. And make no mistake, I fully recognize that as a public safety government official myself, I also represent, quote unquote, the system. So I have work to do as well to change the opinions and the perspective of our community members of City Hall, because we have not always done right by minority communities, by impoverished communities, but I'm definitely happy to play a role in trying to fix and right those wrongs. And just to kind of tie up my spiel and open up the floor for questions and any further conversation, I want to kind of tie it back to something I said at the beginning, is that we have to increase the focus on the spirit of these people that we encounter. We have to, because it's not just about jobs. It's not just about, poor education. It definitely plays a part, and those are some of the most common root causes that we find when you survey the demographic of individuals that have committed crime. Usually there's some aspect of poverty. Usually there's some aspect of untreated mental illness. Usually there's some aspect of a lack of opportunity. But there's always an aspect of low self-esteem and not seeing the value in myself and others around me. Huffington Post did a study that less than half of Black Americans feel like they're going to reach, under the age of 30, feel like they will see their 30th birthday. Half of young Black Americans do not think that they will see the age of 30. Imagine the amount of recklessness that puts you under. I don't think I'm going to see 30 years old. So of course I can pick up a gun and resolve an argument with a firearm. And so anytime you encounter a young person, especially, or anybody that seems to be living or leading down a path of criminality, instead of first jumping to admonishing them or demeaning them, try to take a moment and speak some life into them, because chances are they don't have anybody in their immediate circle doing that. And so I appreciate the time again today and am available and happy to answer any questions.
I'm speechless. Now, you done made me speechless. You did a wonderful job. Thank you so much. And I think you hit a whole lot of absolutely excellent points. I think you started off with what sometime I do like to address, that when we're dealing with root causes, we're dealing with different demographics. Mm-hmm. And sometimes their triggers are different than other triggers.
Absolutely.
And so when you're looking at the Black community, it is true. There are some historical traumas that go all the way back to slavery that has not been yet resolved. And it's passed on and on and on, and compounded by this, compounded by this, compounded by this. I always say this in honesty. When we came out of slavery, we went straight to tents and we went straight into projects. How healthy is that for your mental, right? So those things have not been addressed. So they have compounded more of initiating and engender more violent behavior and this area of low self-esteem. So you did a great and awesome job. One thing I do appreciate, and I'm going to open up the door to, is that one day I was doing some, what we call fundraising. We were fundraising for something out for a cause. And I was in an area where it was not very conducive for being a target. Mm-hmm. And one of the community kids, you can see a mile away, they're coming for mischief. And they're not only coming for mischief, they're coming to maim. You know what I'm talking about. You can see they're coming to maim and destroy you, you know, because they have an agenda. And I saw them, but somehow I was in a position where I couldn't get out of this particular hole, right? Where other people could see me. So I was lodged in. I said, oh my God. So they asked me for something and I had to give them some money, you know, and as change for what they were asking for. And they had taken my $100 bill and they snatched it. They took it and then asked me, where's my change? Where's their change? You know, it's the okey doke. But they were waiting for me to react in a positive way, in a negative way. And I heard, and I like what you said, the Spirit of God. I mean, you can look at our little kids, right? In a split second, I heard the Spirit of God. He said, their actions and reactions will be determined in a split second of how you react. And I heard that real quick. And I just looked at him. I said, wow. And I said, it's so sincere. I said, wow, that was good. And I don't know why I put my hand on his shoulder. I said, that was good. That was really good. I like that, you know? And I said, but this time is for God.
Absolutely.
He said, what did you say? Oh, you want? I just put my hand. I said, I understand. This time is for God. And there's other soldiers around there. They were ready to take the knives out and everything else. But that boy, I never saw, never a young man, he did like this. He put his hand up like this. He shook his head like this. And he went in his pocket, he gave me a $100 bill back. And he said, I don't know why I like you. And then the other guy said, oh, let's get him. He said, don't you touch him. And they went back and they wanted to turn back. And he turned back and said, don't you turn back. So you said something that the healing will not come by some cheese and some photo ops. The healing we're going to come by how do we look at the root heart of the problem, where we can go in to touch the humanity of these people. And no one has ever went in those communities and really touched the humanity of these people. And I want to applaud you because you've proven that you went in and you touched the humanity of these people and you're getting positive results. So I really want to thank you for that. You reminded me of that story. So thank you so much. You did a wonderful job. I look forward to talking with you some more because those are some really critical points that you're making. And it's not just, it's the African-American, we have to look at all demographics, like you said. It's not just one, you have to look at Hispanic, you can look at poor whites, all of it. We all have different triggers. That all has to be addressed. And guess what? It all has to be appreciated.
Yes, yes.
We don't appreciate what traumas people have gone through. But we, as you said, the cops, you know, they're reacting to the aftermath. You see, they're reacting to that. But we're saying, no, let's appreciate the trauma so that we don't have to deal with that, you know, heinous aftermath, you know. And so I really appreciate what you have just shared with us. I certainly look forward to talking with you more and working with you, doing a stalwart job. God bless you. I'd like to open up the floor for anyone else that would like to share a few words with her or some questions that you have for Melissa. It's Melissa, right?
Yes, Melissa.
Okay, I said Melissa. Melissa, okay. Amen. Wayne, welcome.
Hi, good to see you again. I'm happy and I have hope after listening to your presentation. And thank you for coming on. I have a question. In your journey, what are the names of the men and the women have raised you up, that have given you hope, that have inspired you, that have given you a broader vision of what you can do with your life? So I'd like to hear that part of your story. Who influenced you and to get so that you're at the position you are right now?
That is a great question and one that I'm definitely excited to answer, but the answer might surprise you. So I was raised by a single mother. And my father, unfortunately, had a very, very serious and sincere drug addiction. And so he was absent for most of my adult life. But God works in mysterious ways, because during the period when he was really fighting his addiction, there was about a group of 4 men. One was my track coach, one was my assistant track coach, one is my godfather, and one was my best friend's dad, actually, that pretty much stepped in and made sure that no matter my circumstances, I always felt loved, I always felt supported, and I always felt like anything was possible. And my mother, which was a huge help, because my mother, being a single mother, worked 3 jobs. And so she did her absolute best. But unfortunately, you know, working that much, you aren't able to be as hands-on of a parent as you might like to be. And so these 4 men escorted me in every father-daughter dance, made sure that I had an escort at the coronation, and I was a debutante, and they came to practice every Saturday morning and learned the waltz with me. And these are memories that just made me feel so confident in my abilities and what I could do. And then you fast forward to my father, unfortunately, getting locked up. He went to jail for about 4 years for an armed burglary, trying to support his addiction. And he got clean, though, while he was in jail. And him getting out and becoming the community pillar that he needed at his lowest point has been my greatest inspiration and my desire to even work in the crime reduction space. I am so optimistic because I know rehabilitation is possible. My father is now a deacon in the church. He's remarried. He's a community pillar, the same way that people that he used to, you know, haggle people and run after people for help. People are now doing that to him because he knows that he has to serve a role that he unfortunately did not have at his lowest moments. And so I am so proud of my dad. I definitely have gotten his blessing to tell that story. And it's not a story that he's ashamed of either. I know that turning this and changing your life is possible because I've seen it happen with my own 2 eyes. And so those are kind of, and of course, you know, I have an aunt that I'm very close with. I have an amazing nuclear family. And mentorship, though, mentorship is huge. I have probably a list of 15 people that I could call right now and run a variety of ideas, problems, issues by them, and know that I'm going to get sound, logical advice. And I know that I'm fortunate in that, because everybody does not have that. A lot of the people that I encounter through Partners for Peace or just general crime reduction strategies, everybody around them solves their issues through violence. So of course, they're going to be conditioned to solve their issues through violence. Thankfully, even though I grew up in the same neighborhood as these folks, I was a little bit insulated from the realities of the neighborhood because of my mentors, because of my family, and I continue to stay hopeful in this space because of my father.
Wow, thank you for that. And you know, the last Sunday of July is a national holiday. It's called Parents' Day, where we worship, we honor and celebrate our mom and our dad together. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for your story. Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you so much, Wayne, for that. And thank you for your response. It's a great response. Dr. Madeline Alexander, how are you?
Yes, God bless, Reverend Alexander. Reverend, I don't know why I always call you Reverend Alexander. Reverend Oliver, God bless you, and thank you so much weekly for sharing this platform. But Melissa, God bless you and thank you. Thank you for having a courageous conversation. Thank your mom for sharing you as a gift to the community. Now, I heard you say that you stay close to your mom for the toilet paper, but I believe you really stand there for the protests. Mm-hmm. So in that, I encourage you to keep moving forward, to keep doing what you're doing. Your mom planted the seed and she allowed those men in your life to water it. And God has truly truly given the increase. So from my heart to your heart, I honor you. I pray peace and blessings and protection around your life as you move forward into this new position. I pray that God will open the doors that you need and he will shut the doors that you don't. But I plead the blood of Jesus over your life and pray that all will be well.
I received that so wholeheartedly, Dr. Alexander. Thank you so much.
God bless you. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Very beautiful. Okay, anyone else? Thank you, Dr. Alexander. I'm gonna start calling you Dr. Oliver. And she's my ace buku. Anybody else would like to share or have any questions?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Please, Bob, welcome.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I'm here in Houston, and I'm in One Food. I'm in the ministry. One Food, I am in the manufacturing industry. And every time when I'm at pastors' meetings, I tell them, I said, there is a shortage of technicians. People, we cannot, we cannot find technicians. And this is not just here in Houston, but it's also, nationwide. GE cannot find enough technicians. SpaceX, Blue Origin, Boeing. And I think what we really need in the United States, I'm originally from the Netherlands, is we need an educational program to train young people to become CNC operators, to have skills. And one of the reasons why I think in Europe, in northern part of Europe, there's so low crime is because it's an excellent education program. And, I've been telling this to Congressman Al Green and Sheila Jackson again and again. We need to invest in good, proper education. And a CNC operator here in Texas, you used to pay, starts around $60,000, but we cannot find them. So I just wanted to bring this to your attention. And, we can talk about Jesus, which is very important. And in Europe, they need Jesus. But at the same time, we need to invest in our education system to stop all the crime. In the Netherlands, just to finish my story, in the Netherlands, there's hardly any violent crime, and half of the jails are empty. And I think it has to do is because they're investing in proper, good education. And just go Google it, and you'll find it. Scandinavian countries, the Netherlands, Germany have extremely low crime, and the clergy in the United States need to get this message. We have internal and external, and they need to be balanced. This is my 5 pennies for today, and God bless you.
Thank you so much. You're spot on about education, for sure.
I have something to say here, Reverend Oliver. Yeah, thank you so much. Wonderful, wonderful talk and dynamics. I can tell you're going to make something happen. I'm on the Kansas City, Kansas. I work for UPF in Kansas, so not been on your side yet, but with Mary Garner a couple of times. But they're working hard over there trying to get stuff done. So anytime you get help, I took Reverend Faulkner over there one time here some months back to talk to their staff and see if they could get some, help from him. So I just wish you could do that anytime you want to spill over anything in the Kansas City, Kansas side and help in any way. I'm sure you do coordinate somehow with some of these things. But anyway, we're one city together, so hope you can make it happen. Appreciate all that. Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I'm writing down your name so we can connect.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, John O'Connor. Thank you so much. Anyone else? How about Reverend Franklin?
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that, Reverend Oliver. And Melissa, God bless you. Thank you so much for your work. And I tell you, Melissa, I have no resentment because see, I'm originally from Cincinnati, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no problem with the Kansas City Chiefs beating our Bengals. So So I have no hating on you for that
I
because
appreciate that.
because I want to give kudos to Patrick Mahomes. He played his heart out. So but aside from that, I'm just so impressed with you embracing that spiritual motivation to see the people in those areas that you serve with the spirit of hope, with the spirit of possibilities, with the spirit is that they can change their life around. And you have embraced that. And it's something worth looking into because everybody has a story. And I really appreciate you bringing that out because that is so important. Because see, that is the component I believe that is necessary to take that spiritual path, to see God's children in every person. Because we know, historically speaking, African-American people in our country are the last people who will go and bomb a church. So it's something to that.
Mhm.
And you have that insight to tap into that. And I really honor you for that. And thank you so much. And then the whole thing, I really appreciate what Bob was saying as well, because in my humble opinion, the Board of Education should be destroyed. They have not served our people well. And I think it's a good idea. Are you thinking about the possibility of working to create a public-private partnership with businesses? Is that a possibility that you may be looking into?
Yes, we have a number of apprenticeship programs with, like, for example, a lot of our big utility companies, as well as, I think it's an interesting time in America because I feel like maybe about 7 years ago, if a private business or a business community wanted to get in the space of violence reduction or wanted to assist in any way, for a long time, the only answer was give money to the police or give money to the police foundation. Well, I think fast forward present day, I think we across the board as a society have a much better understanding of that we can't arrest our way out of this problem. We have to invest early on in the lives of our children, of our youth, and of our young people, because make no mistake, the biggest age demographic for homicides is 18 to 25. That's still very young. I think we fall into the habit of categorizing young people as under the age of 18. And so customarily, we haven't had any city-supported positive programming for the 18 to 25 demographic. We have lots for the younger kids, but what about 18 to 25? They need a positive outlet. They need a city-funded basketball league. They need STEM opportunities. They need job training opportunities as well. And so I agree with you. We are leveraging our private business community who have definitely answered the call for service. They've invested in violence prevention in ways that they never have. For example, we had an issue down on the plaza, the Country Club Plaza, which is a popular shopping district here in Kansas City, definitely catered towards the more affluent individuals. But we had a problem a couple of weeks ago where parents were just dropping their kids off down at the plaza and they were fighting. One night there was even a shooting. So when we're trying to be responsive to that, our business community on the plaza and made a donation to our parks department to stand up a youth nightclub on Fridays and Saturdays so that they had a positive place to go instead of just being down on the plaza when none of the businesses are open. So there's really no purpose for you to be down there. So yes, our business community, because they have to play a role. Crime is not a police department problem. It's not a municipal city hall problem. It is a widespread community problem, and everybody has to be part of the solution.
Amen. Amen. I
thank you.
really appreciate that.
I have a question.
Yes, thank you. Yes, Laura, please.
Hi, this is really wonderful to hear this realistic, down to earth, expression of what's happening in our city, in the cities all around I'm actually near Dallas. We live near Dallas, but I'm pretty far north of there. We live out in the country, but actually I've been a longtime advocate for what's called school choice. And I realize this is not a panacea. Any kind of educational change would not be a panacea, but I really strongly feel that right now, and for quite a few years, our public school systems have become like a monopoly, especially in the low income neighborhoods, so I just wonder what you think about that. I really want to, say it's really I've seen that people can change if they're given the right kinds of educational opportunity. And again, it's not a panacea, but it's kind of a start, so to speak, I believe.
For sure. So it's interesting that you mentioned that we do have school choice here in Kansas City.
Oh.
Yes, we do. So, there was a period where our public school system, due to a number of factors, including superintendent turnover, lack of resources, etc., was just not performing at all. And it was doing so poorly that it actually lost accreditation for a long period of time. Well, our state legislature passed a law that allowed the establishment of charter schools as long as they were within the boundaries of the Kansas City Public School District, the theory being trying to really step into and make up for the gaps of the public school district, but still for the children that live within the boundaries of the public school district. And it is definitely a vibrant discussion, a very political discussion. Yeah. You have people definitely at both ends of the spectrum, but I actually sit on a charter school board. So I'm very supportive of school choice, investing in youth. And, over half of our children that live in poverty and that are minority are educated in charter schools. So we have to support charter schools, regardless of what your politics are. If half of our children that are most in need are being educated in charter schools, we absolutely have a duty to support that school system, because I think there has been an underlying argument or belief that, well, charter schools, they're special, so they don't need as much support. No, they absolutely do. They're struggling with academic achievement. They're struggling with resources as well. And so we do have that here in Kansas City. It's definitely a fiery topic, but I agree with you, Laura. Any way that kids can be well educated, I'm supportive of.
Well, thank you so much. Good to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much for all of your questions. All the questions and all of your answers that you have given us and graced us with. So I just feel that you have hit some very central topics and central points that we need to embellish upon. And I think that as we are going on with these webinars, we have so many wonderful people as yourself sharing best practices. And I think that what I feel eventually we will do is we need a national conference where we bring our best practices together. We edify one another so that we can have the encouragement, and some people might be missing something in the area of their work in reducing crime that you can supplement, because they need to hear you. They need to see your stats. They need to see what you have done and the results, and the same for over there. And I think we need to come together for a national conference of best practices. And I think you're doing a great job in looking at the different demographics. We don't look at the different demographics and as you said, from a truthful standpoint. It is not, we have to get out of the mind frame. When we deal with the African-American community or different communities, we're being divisive. No, it's not. We need to go look at it from a standpoint, we need to heal. You see, these are human beings. They have gone through something, and on the other spectrum, there are also other demographics out there. We had a Native American young lady come on, and she did a stalwart job. And what they went through is not what we went through.
Exactly.
But it escalated into a lot of the violent crimes, domestic crimes, and stuff like that. But we had to, the way to deal with that particular community, we had to look at what is the root cause that triggers them in a manner that it does. And so really, really happy. You did a wonderful job. We're about to close. We would like if you just like to say your last few words as we close, and we look forward to actually working with you.
Absolutely. Please keep me posted about the national convening. I've definitely appreciated and in a lot of ways needed this conversation today. Working in this space, it is very, very hard to stay optimistic. It is very, very difficult to stay hopeful, but it is interactions like this that confirm that I am on the right path, that I'm doing good work, and you all have energized me in more ways than you know in the span of an hour. And so I just want to thank you for your time and for your comments and your conversations, and I look forward to speaking with you all again.
God bless you. God bless you, and we will do it. I don't think anything is a coincidence. And as you said, I saw you shaking your head when I said, you know, when it gets worse, that means it's going to get better. So
Yes.
what we're seeing, and you said so emphatically that even you growing up in certain neighborhoods, you're looking at it and you're saying it does seem like it's getting worse. But, you know, as a preacher, I can say, you know, when Satan is coming like that, that means that good is on his way to take its final reigns, you know. And so we love you, everyone. God bless you for coming on. We will stay in touch. Thank you, everyone. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Bye.
Praise God, Melissa.
Yeah.
To say you rock is an understatement.
Have a great day, God bless.
Awesome.
She was awesome. Yeah. Wonderful.
God bless y'all. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, everyone. God bless.
Thank
We'll
you,
see
Reverend
next
Oliver.
week.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Melissa.
Reverend Oliver.
Very much.
God bless. Next week.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Alrighty.
God bless.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay. God bless.